A strange thing happens to many people before they ever discover the word awakening. Nothing dramatic happens. The sky doesn't open. There isn't a flash of light. There isn't a voice explaining everything. Instead, they wake up one morning and something feels different. Not wrong. Different. The same house, the same job, the same relationships. Yet somehow the life they've been living no longer feels the way it used to. At first, most people ignore it. They assume they're stressed, burned out, going through a phase, but the feeling doesn't leave. In fact, it slowly gets stronger. The hobbies they once loved don't excite them the same way. The goals they've been chasing suddenly feel strangely empty. Conversations that used to feel meaningful begin feeling repetitive, and because they can't explain what's happening, they start asking questions. Am I unhappy? Am I broken? Am I losing myself? Did I make a mistake somewhere? For many people, these questions begin long before any answers arrive. And that's one of the reasons awakening can feel so unsettling. Most people have never been taught what transformation actually feels like. So when it begins happening, they assume something must be wrong. One day, they may find themselves sitting across from someone they've known for years, listening to a conversation they've had 100 times before, and suddenly wondering, why does this feel different? The other person hasn't changed, the room hasn't changed, the topic hasn't changed, but something inside them has. And once you notice that shift, it's difficult to ignore. This is where many people imagine awakening should arrive with certainty. A breakthrough, a revelation, a moment where everything suddenly makes sense. But for most people, awakening doesn't begin with answers. It begins with awareness, an awareness of patterns, beliefs, emotional reactions, and assumptions that have been operating in the background for years. Awakening rarely starts by adding something new. More often, it starts by exposing what was already there. The fears you inherited, the stories you accepted without questioning, the emotional habits that became automatic, the expectations you built your identity around. One by one, these things begin moving into the light, and this is where the process can become uncomfortable, because awareness has a strange effect. Once you see something clearly, you can't completely unsee it. The patterns you've ignored become visible. The emotions you've avoided become noticeable. The parts of yourself you've never examined begin asking for attention. This is why awakening often feels more like a dismantling than an achievement. People expect enlightenment. What they experience is honesty. People expect certainty. What they experience is questioning. People expect peace. What they often experience first is awareness. And awareness can be messy and very uncomfortable. The mind doesn't like uncertainty. It wants answers. It wants a map. It wants reassurance that everything is heading somewhere. But awakening often asks us to sit with questions before answers arrive, to remain present while clarity slowly develops, to keep walking even when we can't yet see the destination. Over time, something begins to shift. Life stops feeling like something that is simply happening to you. You start recognizing patterns. You notice choices. You become aware of perspectives you never questioned before. And slowly, awakening becomes less about fixing yourself and more about understanding yourself. Years from now, you will look back on this period and realize something surprising. The moments you were most convinced you were lost were often the moments you were changing the most. The confusion, the uncertainty, the emotional intensity, the feeling that the old version of life no longer fit. None of it felt meaningful while it was happening, but in hindsight, it was the beginning, not the end. The goal was never to become someone new. The goal was to become more aware of who you already were beneath the conditioning, expectations, fears, and noise. And sometimes awakening starts exactly that way, quietly, gradually. One question at a time. If this topic resonated with you, I've included a link to a free ebook below that expands on these ideas. You'll also find a link to the book that inspired this channel. You want to be psychic? Hang on tight. For those who want a more structured journey, I've also included information about the companion courses. And if you're interested in a deeper dive into this journey, you'll find my second book linked in the description as well. All of the links are below. Thank you for spending your time with me, and have an amazing journey.